Dan, I guess last week I was talking with a local wrestler out here in Vancouver, and we were talking about the effect Chris Benoit had locally. He was telling me stories about how some sponsors had kind of backed away from sponsoring ECCW because of the Chris Benoit situation, and he said similar things are happening out there in Calgary. What can you tell us about Benoit's effect a year later on the Calgary indie scene?
Well, the whole situation is pretty surreal and crazy, and it really put a negative taste of wrestling in a lot of people's mouths, and they didn't want to have anything to do with it. So it was really hard for us to try and find people who want to come to our shows or help our shows out, because especially since Benoit being, I guess, from Alberta, there's a lot of focus goes on Alberta, and that's kind of really hard for us there for a while.
Is there still an effect today about it? I mean, are you still finding it difficult to get those same sponsorships?
It's calmed down a little bit now, just with time going by, but it still is hard because it's such a terrible thing that happened. So people are still not exactly back on the wrestling bandwagon here, and so it's still hard, but it is getting easier.
What was the effect like right after it happened? I mean, right on the scene there, were there a lot of were the fans kind of staying away? Were some of the other wrestlers kind of disenfranchised with the business? What was it like in those first few days after this happened?
It was pretty tough. Just new information was coming out each day about what had happened and transpired and all that kind of stuff. So it was really surreal. It was really too bad because Benoit was known as such a great wrestler, but everything he's done has been overshadowed with that. Just, I guess kind of rightfully so. It's a terrible thing, but it was really hard the first few days. Like hard to even watch wrestling or to go and do practices or shows or anything like that. We had a show a few days later, and I didn't even really feel like wrestling. It was just kind of spin right out of my tail.
Right, but eventually you did recover, I suppose. Does it still linger with you, though? I mean, have you been able to kind of come to terms with what happened? And if so, how did that come about?
I guess I was able to come to terms with it. It was hard because, like I said, it was so terrible, and I really liked Benoit as a wrestler. I guess I still try and watch his wrestling matches, appreciate them for what they were, but it is really hard to get past what happened. And so I don't know. It's really hard to forget about it and move on. So I just try and do my best to maybe enjoy his wrestling.
So what changed when this happened? I mean, not just for yourself, but for the promotion that you work for the most. What kind of changed in the locker room and the way things were done in the wake of what Chris Benoit did?
Well, just when it happened, those locker rooms, everyone kind of had their wind taken out of their tails. There's a lot of less lively in there and stuff like that. I don't know, just kind of down about it. Just around Alberta, Chris Benoit, his wrestling style affected a lot of guys around here. A lot of dance wrestling in Alberta, the dungeons and all that kind of stuff, which a few of them still have doing now. And kind of hard. You don't want to still be doing stuff that you did maybe that people with kind of Chris Benoit in a bad way.
Right.
For his wrestling.
But I mean, it's hard, isn't it? Because he was revered in this country, one of the best wrestlers in Canada ever, and he achieved so many great things, and it's hard to come to terms with the fact that he did this horrible thing. It's hard for fans, but if you're a wrestler yourself, I mean, the passion that you must have for wrestling, Dan, must be so much more than a lot of the other people do, because you've gone out, you've done it, you've trained, you've gone through that discipline, and you put yourself out there. And as I said, I mean, I saw you at the Pacific Cup tournament, and I was blown away by what I saw. I mean, you were a very talented young man, and certainly you have all the tools necessary to go far in the business. But the passion that you have must make it even more difficult, just to put into perspective that someone doing what you do could be capable of what Benoit was.
Yeah, it is really hard to see someone that you look up to and then something like that happens. It is hard to do it, and not just eat every day, find out you're a wrestler, and then that's all that's the first thing that comes to mind when they come to wrestling now. Is the whole tragedy, that kind of stuff. So it is hard to try and get past that or whatever. But love what I do. I love going out and entertaining fans, and traveling to different cultures, to different provinces, countries, and do that or whatever. So as hard as it is, I try and just do my best to get past it. To prove that that I just love it. I'm not kind of now at least, but nothing new is gonna come out of it.
Right. Did you ever get the chance to meet Chris Benoit?
I only met him once briefly in passing at the funeral.
And because I was talking with Azim, and Azim actually had the opportunity to meet him and I talked to him for a little bit and was just kind of mesmerized, I guess, by what he said. But it's one of those things. I mean, it's harder. I think it must be a little bit closer to home out there. I mean, here in Vancouver, I mean, we're close and we can relate a little bit. But it must have just been that whole scene. I mean, just living in the city and being around in the province where it happened, and sort of Calgary being kind of the sort of the main wrestling hub of Canada. It just must have been a very interesting time to be a wrestler and to be so close to what was going on there. I can only imagine what that was like. But I mean, is anything positive come out of it?
I guess just maybe it's kind of hard like for positive to try and find positive things, but maybe just for all the boys, I guess, just to try and be a little bit closer. Because I guess Benoit like is kind of known as by being by himself a little bit, and so like people maybe didn't know what was going on and needed help. And so like we're all pretty close out here. You know, even go to different shows and all that kind of stuff. So we always get along with us, which is good. It's not saying that Benoit did, but just I don't know, for everyone to just try and get along and that kind of stuff better. Just because help is feeling down or whatever, like before it escalates something like that. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's good to see that. I mean, some of the boys can kind of recognize some of those early warning signs if something's going on, and I think that's exactly it. I mean, there's a lot of things that go on in someone's life. If you can pay attention and talk with them and be there for them, it can make a huge difference. And it makes you wonder maybe if someone had picked up on these signs before, maybe things might have turned out different. But I mean, that's a whole corporate structure. It's a whole different thing. But I mean, that's good to hear on the local level. You guys are kind of sticking together.
Yeah.
Would you say, Dan, that you're still a Chris Benoit fan?
Yes. I still enjoy when I see a matches. I still am able to play. But I don't watch many of them. I don't go out of my way to put one in to watch. I think that's like me though, like because it's still like whatever. It still is like it's only been a year, so still fairly fresh in my mind or whatever. Everyone else. When I do see one, I'm able to enjoy it because he was such a tremendous wrestler, and so it's a shame that his wrestling goes unnoticed now, but it's kind of understandable.
Yeah, I wrestle with the same dilemma too, wondering sort of what legacy Chris Benoit cemented for himself. Is he can I still say he's one of the best wrestlers ever, or is he just a murdering piece of garbage? I mean, how do you come to terms with that?
It's hard to say. He was one of the best wrestlers probably ever, and I think that will get overshadowed with what happened, what he did. And I'm not sure if that's right or not. It's hard to say, but what he did do was a horrible thing. It's just hard to say. Maybe some people are able to come to terms with it. They know I can enjoy his wrestling and that kind of stuff. But like only focus on the one thing, and you can't say that they're wrong because it was a terrible thing.